up, y'all? It's your boy Hometeam here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And one of the reasons why I do this is because I realize a lot of our history books in our public school system don't teach African history. There's no African agency within our history books, meaning a lot of the kids get the impression that Africa made no contribution to world culture or civilization at large. And that has a tremendous impact on how we view ourselves and how others view us, the home team diaspora. We talk about Christopher Columbus, we talk about Thomas Jefferson or Napoleon, but we never really get to Mansa Musa or Sonny Akita or King Taharka or Queen Zinga, all these other great people. We got to remember to have a proper historical perspective. In a very diverse nation such as ours, we can't just have one historical perspective because it has a tremendous impact on our kids, people of color mainly. What I wanted to talk today about was ancient Nubia. Personally, that's one of my favorite topics ever. A lot of people look at the relationship between Nubia and Egypt, and they see that the Nubians and the Egyptians were fighting like all the time. And so they say to themselves, yo, these must be two different people. Because the Egyptians said, yo, we don't want no Nubians coming up here and dominating, so we about to build a border to kick them out. So people look at that, scholars look at that, and they say, yo, these were two different people. But that's flawed thinking. We got to put it in its proper context. Say, for example, the relationship between the American colonists and the British. Now, say 1,000 years from now, they go and dig up, America, and they find, artifacts of the Revolutionary War, and they say, yo, these American colonists were fighting these British, these Europeans. They must be two different people. Of course, today we'd be like, yo, that's completely absurd. But the same can be applied to Nubia and Egypt when we put it in its proper historical context. The Greeks, the historians like Herodotus and Diodorus. Herodotus specifically, he says, yo, these Nubians just might be the most ancient people on the planet. And he also said that Nubia is the motherland of Egypt. And more importantly, he said Egypt was a colony of Nubia. These people look at Herodotus, and these scholars say, man, Herodotus is not reliable, we can't take him serious. But then other scholars call him the father of history. So we can't have it both ways. And I would understand, or we can understand, if there was one Greek historian that is saying all this stuff, but it's not just him, it's other Greek historians, and more importantly, the Nubians themselves. Diodorus, he said, this other Greek historian, he said that, yo, these Egyptians, their ways, their mannerisms, their culture, their religion, they all come from Ethiopians. And to the Greeks, Ethiopians were Nubians, or people in that region. So we have to remember to put it in a proper historical context. We can't completely disregard what these Nubians are telling these Greeks. These Nubians are saying, yo, Egypt is a colony of us. Like, we're the motherland, we're the origin, this is where the culture comes from. So we can't disregard these ancient historians. We have to delve into this and have some discourse about, what this really means. So basically, the 25th dynasty of Egypt was a Nubian dynasty. Now, these Nubian kings went up into Egypt and they conquered it. And one of the most significant things about this dynasty was Egypt flourished as a cultural and revolutionary restoration. There was a cultural, religious restoration of Egypt in that time period. These Nubian kings would go up to Egypt and try and restore the culture, the artifacts. These kings would build pyramids. They would restore temples and even restore religious literature and texts. So what does that tell us today? These kings, the first one, Kashta, Pi, Shabaka, Shibiku, Taharka, one of my personal favorites, and Tantamani, all these kings, most of them went up into Egypt and started restoring the culture and the religion, and started building pyramids and restoring temples. Now we say to ourselves, why did these guys do this? Like, what were they doing? And then we realize that they knew who they were. They knew they were restoring what was theirs, their origin. Egypt came from Nubia. That was their mindset. So they were restoring what was theirs. They were restoring Egypt. They didn't want it lost. Egypt is in the middle of a lot of different nations and people. To the west, you got Libyans. To the north, you got, Assyrians, Asiatics. And so there was a lot of conflict between who's going to have influence over Egypt. So the Nubians, knowing that Egypt is a colony of them, they wanted to restore that culture. One theory is that King Pi was one of the main drivers to do this. King Pi is significant because he's the first guy that unified Egypt and Nubia. Now the first guy to go up there was Kashta. Now Kashta, he was in control of Upper Egypt, but he didn't really dominate the whole region. It was King Pi that gets credit for combining Nubia and Egypt. And so King Pi, he went up there and he conquered Egypt, and he created this huge stela. This stela is like 6 feet tall, weighs like 4 to 6 tons. It has 159 lines on it. And pretty much King Pi was boasting about his victory, and he said something that was so significant to this theory of cultural restoration. He said, yo, the reason why I went up into Egypt is because they were rebelling. Now, why would he say that? He also said, this is a holy war. Before this dude, King Pi, even went up there, he said to his army, yo, I want you guys to cleanse yourself spiritually, mentally, and physically in the river. And King Pi himself sacrificed an animal to go up there and restore Egypt and conquer Egypt. One of the most significant things about what this dude did was he went up to Egypt on a boat, and after he conquered Egypt, he came right back down to Nubia, to his homeland. And one of the kings of Egypt, one of the lords in one of the regions, there were many different regions, one of the kings was just like, yo, okay, I realize you conquered us, but I don't want to pay homage to you people. And King Pi was just like, okay, that's cool, like, I'm not tripping over that. So we realized that King Pi was more interested in the restoration of Egypt, not conquering Egypt. And we see that in his Victoria Stela, what he wrote down, and he forgave his enemies, and he restored and renewed the culture. And the kings after him, Shabaka, he went up into Egypt, and he went into a temple one day, and in this temple he saw this religious text, and he saw the text was being just demolished by these worms. And this affected Shabaka so much that he was like, yo, I want you guys to write down everything you see in that text, and I want you to put it on this stone so it'll last forever, hands down. And today, this stone is known as the Shabaka stone. This tells us that, yo, these Nubian kings were not interested in conquering Egypt. They were interested in restoring their culture, their religion, even their language and their literature. And in a time where there was a lot of conflict with the Assyrians, these kings were interested in preserving themselves and their people. And so King Taharqa himself, he also was in a golden age of Egypt when he was up there. He started rebuilding temples and restoring pyramids and restoring the literature and creating new literature and really influencing not only Egypt but the Levant region. And so the Assyrians were in huge conflict with King Taharqa. We have to remember to put it, like I said, in a historical perspective. A lot of people would tell you that, the origins of Egypt is a mystery. But we have to listen to these ancient people, the Greeks, the Nubians themselves, because they have agency in their history, and we must listen to them. Even in the Old Kingdom, they made a prophecy. It's called the prophecy of Nefertiti. Now, Nefertiti said that, there's going to be a king from the south who's going to come up into Egypt and restore Egypt, and he's going to be from Taseti. Now, like I said in my last video, Taseti means land of the bow, because these Nubians were excellent bowmen. So we realized that, this was an ancient prophecy. These Egyptians themselves, they knew their origin, and they knew there was going to be a time where there was going to be some perversion of the religion. That's what the prophecy of Nefertiti is talking about. I encourage you guys to do some research. I encourage you guys to take away, add, subscribe, comment, you know, do your thing. But always remember, keep it home team, y'all, and know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.
Les things que tu do to me usually me donnent envie de rock to the beat. So tu suis without a doubt t'es ma source de vie. Apple tree puis j'ai le goût de snatch tous tes fruits. True body si on attend que Papoose me feed. Pour gratuit ça sentirait le popcorn. Une week good de prix d'où je vis. Les industries pas d'où te piques. Je baille des Q-tips pour que